The town of Briar Hollow did not lock its doors. People said that like a badge of honor, the way others talked about good schools or low taxes. In Briar Hollow, folks left keys on the dash at the gas station and waved at passing cars even if they couldn't place the face behind the windshield. It was the kind of place where trouble felt imported, never homegrown. That was why the barking felt wrong. Rook, German Shepherd, 4 years old, dark saddle coat fading to brown along the spine, had been trained not to bark unless he meant it. Alert, sit, stare. Barking was escalation. Barking meant urgency. "Easy, boy," Officer Eli Mercer said, though he didn't shorten the leash. The parking lot behind Miller's feed store was half gravel, half cracked asphalt, bordered by scrub trees and a shallow ditch that smelled of stagnant water. The sun had dipped low enough to stretch shadows long and thin. Evening heat still clung to the air, pressing sweat into the collar of Eli's uniform. Rook ignored him. The dog lunged toward the sedan again, hackles up, bark ripping from his chest like something pulled loose. Officer Dana Pike stopped walking. "You hear that?" she asked, though it was impossible not to. "I hear it," Eli said. He kept his eyes on the car. The sedan was an old Crown Victoria, paint bleached to a dull, uneven red. Dust filmed the windows. A county parking notice fluttered under the wiper, edges curled. No plates. No obvious signs of life. Dana shifted her weight. "He doesn't usually." "I know," Eli said. He'd worked with Rook for 2 years. The dog was methodical, almost cautious. He didn't spook easily. He didn't make noise unless he had to. Rook barked again, louder, then planted himself at the rear bumper, nose pressed to the seam of the trunk. His body went rigid, tail straight, a low growl threading beneath the bark. Eli felt a chill slide down his spine that had nothing to do with the cooling air. "How long's that car been there?" Dana asked. "Couple weeks, I think. Belongs to nobody, according to dispatch. Or to somebody who doesn't want it found." Rook scraped at the trunk with one paw. Eli tightened the leash. "Rook. Heel." The dog didn't move. That, more than the barking, decided it. "Call it in," Eli said. "I want backup." Dana reached for her radio, then hesitated. "You think it's—" "I think my dog's telling me something," Eli said. "And he's usually right." The radio crackled as Dana spoke. Eli crouched, running his free hand along Rook's neck, feeling the vibration of the growl under his palm. The dog's eyes never left the trunk. "Good boy," Eli murmured. "Good boy." The first patrol unit arrived 8 minutes later. The second, 12 after that. By then, the lot had drawn an audience. A pickup idling across the road, a woman with a grocery bag paused mid-step, pretending not to stare. Briar Hollow did not have a crime scene unit. What it had was a small-town sheriff's department stretched thin and a protocol binder that assumed the worst but hoped for the best. Sheriff Tom Hargreaves stepped out of his cruiser, adjusting his hat against the sun. He was in his late 50s, belly pressing against his belt, eyes sharp despite the lines carved around them. "What VE we got?" he asked. Eli briefed him quickly. "Rook's alert. The abandoned vehicle. The lack of plates." Hargreaves studied the car, then the dog. "He's sure." Eli met his gaze. "Yes, sir." The sheriff exhaled slowly. "All right. Let's do this by the book." Gloves were pulled on. A perimeter, such as it was loosely set. Dana ushered the onlookers back with practiced firmness. Eli stood at the rear of the sedan, key ring in hand. The car wasn't locked. That bothered him more than if it had been. "You want me to?" Dana began. "I'll do it," Eli said. He slid the key into the trunk lock. For a moment, nothing happened. Then there was a soft click. Rook barked once more, sharp and urgent, then fell silent. Eli lifted the trunk. The smell hit first. It wasn't rot, not exactly. It was sweet and metallic, layered with something chemical that burned the back of his throat. Dana swore under her breath. Someone behind them gagged. Inside the trunk were coolers. 3 of them. White plastic, lids taped shut with duct tape yellowed from age. For a second, just a second, Eli's mind tried to make it something else. Hunting gear. Illicit meat. Anything but what his body already knew. "Step back," Hargreaves said, his voice tight. They did. The sheriff cut the tape on the nearest cooler and lifted the lid. Time did a strange thing then. Stretched. Folded in on itself. Inside were bags. Thick, black plastic, cinched tight. The shape beneath them was unmistakably human. Dana turned away, hand over her mouth. One of the deputies retched into the grass. Eli stood frozen, Rook pressed against his leg now, silent, watching him. "How many?" Hargreaves asked. Eli didn't answer. He didn't trust his voice. They opened the second cooler. Then the third. By the time the state police were called, the sun had slipped fully behind the trees. The lot was bathed in flashing red and blue, the familiar colors suddenly obscene against the quiet of the town. 3 bodies. All female. All young. No identification. Eli sat on the curb an hour later, helmeted in the low hum of radios and murmured voices. Rook lay beside him, head on his paws, eyes half-lidded but alert. Dana approached, her face pale. "Me says they've been there a while. Weeks. Maybe months." Eli nodded. "There's something else," she said. He looked up. "No defensive wounds," Dana continued. "No obvious trauma. Like they were asleep." Eli swallowed. "Poison. Maybe. Or something else." He stared at the sedan, now cordoned off with tape that fluttered uselessly in the breeze. "Who leaves a car like that in the open?" Dana hesitated. "Someone who thinks they won't be questioned." Or someone who wanted it found, Eli thought. The next morning, Briar Hollow woke up different. People locked their doors. The feed store didn't open. Church bells rang early, unplanned. The rumor mill spun faster than the ceiling fans in the diner. 3 girls, some said. From out of town. Runaways. No, locals. No, drifters. The truth bent with every telling. By noon, the names started circulating. Lila Monroe, 18. Last seen leaving her shift at the gas station. Carrie Whitlock, 21. Dropped out of the community college the previous semester. And Emily Shaw, 17. Emily Shaw was Sheriff Hargreaves' goddaughter. Eli found out when he saw the sheriff in his office, door closed, head in his hands. The hat sat on the desk like a discarded thing. "I didn't know," Hargreaves said when Eli knocked. His voice was rough. "I swear to God, I didn't know." "I know," Eli said. But even as he said it, something shifted. The case took on weight. Pressure. Eyes from the outside. State police arrived. Then a task force. Briar Hollow was no longer just a quiet town with a terrible discovery. It was a headline waiting to happen. And beneath it all, unspoken but present, was the question no one wanted to ask out loud. How did 3 girls die without anyone noticing? That night, Eli didn't sleep. He sat on his porch, Rook at his feet, watching the road. Around midnight, a car passed slow, headlights off until the last moment. Eli's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You opened the wrong trunk." Eli stared at the screen, heart hammering. When he looked up, the road was empty again. The message stayed on Eli Mercer's phone like a bruise you couldn't stop pressing. "You opened the wrong trunk." He read it again at 3:12 a.m., the porch light buzzing faintly above him, moths throwing themselves at the glass with dull persistence. Rook stirred at his feet, lifting his head just enough to watch Eli's face. "Yeah," Eli murmured. "I know." He didn't reply. That felt like an invitation. Instead, he took a screenshot, forwarded it to Dana, then powered the phone off entirely. In a town like Briar Hollow, silence could be safer than answers. By morning, the investigation had outgrown them. 2 unmarked sedans with state plates parked outside the sheriff's department, their engines ticking as they cooled. Men and women Eli didn't know moved through the building with purpose, carrying boxes, laptops, insulated coffee mugs. The familiar smell of old paper and disinfectant was drowned under fresh perfume and nervous sweat. Dana met him at the door. "They're setting up in interview room 2. "Already?" Eli asked. She nodded. "And Eli?" He waited. They pulled phone records. All three girls crossed paths at the same place. Eli felt his jaw tighten. Where? Dana hesitated, then said it anyway. The Hollow Pines Lodge. The name landed heavier than it should have. The Hollow Pines sat 10 miles outside town, half resort, half hunting lodge, built in the 70s when Briar Hollow had briefly flirted with tourism. It had changed hands more times than anyone could count. Weddings, retreats, seasonal workers drifting in and out. A place where people came to be unseen. Eli had been there once. A department Christmas party, years back. He remembered dim lighting, too much wood paneling, and a sense that the walls listened. Who owns it now? Eli asked. Dana shook her head. That's the thing. Officially, a holding company out of Delaware. Unofficially, everyone says the same name. She didn't need to say it. Sheriff Tom Hargreave. They didn't confront him right away. Protocol demanded caution. Grief complicated things. Politics complicated them more. Hargreave had been sheriff for 23 years. He knew every family, every debt, every quiet arrangement that kept Briar Hollow running without friction. The state lead, Special Agent Marla Kessick, gathered them mid-morning. She was all angles and restraint, hair pulled tight, voice low but carrying. "We're not here to burn the town down," she said. "We're here to understand what happened. That means no assumptions. No shortcuts." Her eyes lingered on Eli a fraction longer than necessary. "We'll start with timelines. Then locations. Then relationships. If someone doesn't want to talk, we make a note and move on. Everyone clear?" Eli nodded with the rest, but his mind was already elsewhere. The Hollow Pines Lodge. Emily Shaw's mother sat in interview room 3, hands folded so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Dana handled that interview. Eli couldn't stomach it. Instead, he pulled traffic cam footage, scanned license plates from the road leading out to the lodge. Patterns emerged. Late-night arrivals. Early morning departures. The same black pickup more than once, plates swapped between visits. Clean enough to look accidental. Sloppy enough to be human. The pickup belonged to Caleb Hargreave, the sheriff's nephew. Eli leaned back in his chair, the old springs protesting. Caleb had grown up half-feral, drifting between construction jobs and the lodge itself. He was charming when sober, dangerous when not, and deeply loyal to his uncle. "You seeing this too?" Dana asked quietly, standing behind him. "Yes," Eli said. She exhaled through her nose. "This is going to tear the place apart." "It already has," Eli replied. They went to the lodge that afternoon. The drive wound through dense pines, sunlight flickering like a broken signal through the branches. Rook sat rigid in the back seat, nose twitching at scents Eli couldn't begin to catalog. The Hollow Pines looked unchanged. Weathered sign. Gravel lot. Curtains drawn in the main building, though it was only 3 in the afternoon. A man waited for them on the porch. Late 30s. Beard too carefully maintained. Smile practiced. "Sheriff said you might stop by," the man said. "Name's Luke. I manage the place." Agent Kessick took the lead. "We'd like to ask a few questions." Luke nodded too quickly. "Of course. Happy to help." Inside, the lodge smelled of lemon cleaner and old smoke. Too clean. Like someone had scrubbed memory from the surfaces. Eli watched Luke's hands as they walked. Slight tremor. He kept them busy, opening doors, gesturing, straightening picture frames that didn't need it. "Any of the girls ever work here?" Kessick asked. Luke shook his head. "No, ma'am. Visit. People come and go," Luke said. "Hard to keep track." Rook growled low. Luke glanced at the dog. "Is that necessary?" "Yes," Eli said flatly. They reached the east wing, older rooms, rarely rented now. Rook's body went taut. "No," Luke said quickly. "Those rooms are off-limits. Renovations." "Then you won't mind if we look," Kessick replied. Luke hesitated. That was enough. Room 214 still smelled faintly of bleach beneath something darker. The carpet had been replaced recently, edges not quite flush with the walls. The mattress was new. The headboard wasn't. Rook barked once, sharp. Eli crouched, examining the wall behind the bed. Fresh paint. Uneven. He pressed. Hollow. They pulled the panel back to reveal a recessed space, barely large enough to hide a person. Empty now. But not clean. Dana swore softly. Keswick closed her eyes for a moment, then nodded to her team. Luke backed toward the door. I didn't know about that. Eli met his gaze. That's funny. Because someone did. Caleb Hargreave ran. Not far. Not fast enough. They caught him near the river, hands muddy, eyes wild. He laughed when they cuffed him. You think it's me, he said. You think I could do all that alone? At the station, under the harsh lights, the laughter drained away. I didn't kill them, Caleb said. I swear. I just helped. Helped who? Eli asked. Caleb looked at the one-way glass. At the faint reflection of himself staring back. You know who, he said. The room felt smaller. Sheriff Hargreave didn't deny owning the lodge. He didn't deny knowing the girls. What he denied was intent. They came to me, he said, voice breaking. Troubled. Scared. I was helping them. Giving them a place to stay. Then why were they dead in a trunk? Dana asked. Hargreave closed his eyes. Because I trusted the wrong person. He named Luke. Said Luke handled logistics. Said he never asked questions. It was a neat story. Too neat. Eli left the interview with his stomach in knots. Outside, night pressed in, heavy and close. Rook barked suddenly, ears flat, staring toward the parking lot. A car idled there, engine running. Eli's phone buzzed again. This time, a photo. The inside of his house. Taken minutes ago. A final message followed. Next time, we don't wait for the dog. Eli turned, heart pounding. The car was gone. Eli did not go home. He drove past his street without slowing, porch light burning like a signal flare to no one who should have been there. The photo on his phone had been taken from a hallway. He recognized the scuff on the baseboard, the crooked picture frame he'd never bothered to straighten. Someone had stood inside his life and left without taking anything but certainty. Rook whined softly from the back seat. I know, Eli said. Me too. He parked behind the sheriff's department instead, killed the engine, and sat in the dark until his pulse settled into something usable. Fear was a tool if you didn't let it own you. His father had taught him that, back when fear had come in the shape of storms and unpaid bills and the long quiet after his mother left. Eli keyed the mic on his radio. Dana, you awake? A pause. Then, I am now. I think Luke's not our top problem. Another pause, longer this time. Where are you? Safe enough. For the moment. They reconvened in interview room 2 just before dawn. Agent Keswick looked like she hadn't slept. Dana hadn't either. Sheriff Hargreave sat alone at the table, hands folded, gaze fixed on the scuffed linoleum. He looked smaller than Eli remembered, like grief had compressed him. Eli laid his phone on the table and slid it forward. Keswick studied the photo, then the message. Her jaw tightened. This wasn't Luke. No, Eli said. Luke's a facilitator. Not a planner. He cleans because someone tells him what to erase. Hargreave finally looked up. You think I planned this? I think you controlled it, Eli replied evenly. There's a difference. The sheriff flinched, as if struck. You don't know what you're saying. Dana leaned forward. Then help us understand. Silence stretched. Outside, a truck rumbled past on the highway. Somewhere down the block, a door slammed. Ordinary sounds pressed in, obscene in their normalcy. I didn't start this, Hargreave said finally. I tried to contain it. Eli felt something cold and steady settle in his chest. Contain what? Hargreave swallowed. The lodge. What it became. He spoke slowly at first, as if the words needed coaxing. The hollow pines had always attracted strays, seasonal workers, kids running from something they couldn't name. Years ago, one of those kids had overdosed in room 214. A girl no one claimed. The county had cut corners. The death certificate had been vague. The lodge had stayed open. That's where it went wrong, Hargreaves said. Not because of the death. Because of what came after. Men who wanted discretion. Who paid for silence. Who understood leverage better than law. The lodge became a place where problems were hidden, not solved. Where people who knew how to disappear taught others to do the same. And you, Keswick said quietly, were the lock on the door. Hargreave nodded. I told myself it was better if I knew. Better than leaving it to someone worse. Like Luke? Dana asked. Like me, Hargreaves said. Eli leaned back, chair creaking. And the girls? Hargreaves' eyes filled. They weren't supposed to die. That's not an answer, Eli said. They were witnesses, the sheriff whispered. They saw something they shouldn't have. Luke panicked. Used something fast. Quiet. Poison, Eli said. Hargreave nodded. I told him to move them. To buy time. And the trunk, Eli said. Out in the open. Hargreaves' gaze flicked to him. I wanted it found. The admission landed like a dropped plate. You wanted us to open it, Dana said. I wanted the state involved, Hargreaves said. I wanted it over. Keswick's voice hardened. You could have come to us. And watched the town burn? Hargreave asked. Watch every secret spill. People who never hurt anyone lose everything because they were adjacent to something ugly. Eli stood. You decided who deserved protection. Hargreave met his eyes. So do you. Every day. The room held its breath. Luke didn't make it to trial. They found him at the river 2 nights later, hands bound, throat cut clean. Professional. Personal. The message was clear. Loose ends get tied. Caleb Hargreave broke after that. Not all at once. In pieces. He told them about a man who never stayed long enough to be remembered. About envelopes left in the lodge safe. About instructions that came with no names attached. He called himself Mason, Caleb said. I don't think that was his name. Eli listened, cataloging. Routes. Times. Habits. The kind of man who treated people like inventory. Mason didn't exist in any database. But his methods did. The break came from Rook. Eli had brought the dog to the lodge one last time, after the warrants, after the press had moved on to the next horror. The place was quiet now. Empty in a way that felt earned. Rook led him not to 214, but to the basement. Behind a false wall, they found a room that wasn't on any blueprint. Monitors. Burners. A map with pins tracing routes that intersected Briar Hollow like a web. And a ledger. Names. Payments. Dates. One of the names was Dana Pike. Eli stared at it until the letters blurred. He drove straight to her house. Dana answered the door in a sweater and jeans, hair loose, face carefully neutral. You found it, she said. Tell me I'm wrong, Eli said. She stepped aside. Come in. The house smelled like coffee and cedar. Familiar. Safe. He hated that. I didn't kill anyone, Dana said. I never would. You lied, Eli said. Yes, she said. To protect myself. Dana had been a courier. A node. She passed information when asked, small things that didn't look like crimes until they were arranged just right. I was trapped, she said. By debt. By fear. By the idea that if I stopped, it would get worse. And Emily? Eli asked. Dana's eyes filled. I tried to help her. I swear. By telling Mason where she was, Eli said. Silence. Rook growled low. Dana sank onto the couch. I thought if he scared them, they'd leave town. Eli closed his eyes. When he opened them, the world felt older. He cuffed her gently. I'm sorry, she said. So am I, Eli replied. The arrests came fast after that. The ledger cracked open networks far beyond Briar Hollow. Mason vanished, but his shadow didn't. That was enough for now. Sheriff Hargreave resigned before he could be charged. He pled guilty to obstruction, conspiracy. He didn't fight it. He wrote letters to the families that were never mailed. The town went quiet in a new way. Locks stayed on doors. People nodded without smiling. Trust, once broken, didn't rush back. Eli testified. So did Dana. Rook sat at Eli's feet in the courtroom, steady as stone. Months later, the feed store reopened. The lot was repaved. The dented sedan was long gone. Eli stood there one evening, the air cooling, cicadas starting up again. Rook sniffed the ground, tail wagging once. Some instincts don't explain themselves. They only insist. Eli listened now, to the absence of barking, to the small, fragile sound of a town learning how to breathe again. He clipped the leash, turned toward home, and locked the door behind him. Quiet returned, not empty, not innocent, but earned. And for the first time since the trunk opened, that was enough.